Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the podcast. This is episode 28, which you know what that means.
No.
Do you guys know what that means?
Next one's 29.
The next one's 29, which means we're only one away from 30.
Which means
that's halfway to 60.
Which means
we're like more than 50% of the way to 100.
Which means
So we should be thinking about what we're going to do for our 100th episode. Because we're getting close, according
Georgie
to my
shaves
math.
his head.
I do have a haircut coming, so yeah.
How long before you finally cut off the hair, Georgie?
Well, the first 30 years was short hair. Next 30, long hair. The last 30, no hair. So I have it all
That
makes
was
sense.
good.
I like it. I like it. We got Joe in the house. Joe, give us a little update on how we're trending on
Statistics
social media.
look great. TikTok is where it's at. TikTok is absolutely where it's at. Instagram, not so much.
All right, well, we're working on it, but make sure you follow us on the new YouTube channel, which is the most important because that's where you get the full video podcast, and that is youtube.com/@the NGW as my boy Joe is pointing you in that direction. And then we also have all of the other social media ones. The biggest one that's growing right now is the TikTok, but we post the exact same clips that we post on the TikTok. We also post them on the Instagram, and both of those are at the NGW podcast. We are also thinking, I was telling Georgie this, we are also thinking about some possible merch coming up in the future.
Sponsored by Champion Grind?
That is
Sponsored
true.
by Champion Grind.
That is true.
So we'll let us know if there's any interest. And also, this is probably, how many episodes have you been on, Joe?
All the good ones, so I think 12 or so?
All right, so Joe's been 12, really?
No, I have no idea. I have no idea.
Sorry, closer to like
5,
7
6, I
or
don't know.
8. But anyway, we're still looking for that one comment that tells us that you want Joe out, in which case we will let him go immediately.
You didn't get any of those in the Suarez.
I'm getting, well, I mean, yeah, actually, I got a lot of those.
Here they
in the
come.
Suarez. I just want one, though. I want one honest one.
Ooh.
Yeah. Say, I don't like Joe. I am not going to listen to your
Please-
podcast
please
anymore
remove
if he
him.
stays on.
Please.
Yep. I might have to create a burner account at this point.
Don't
It's
worry.
getting to that point. But anyway, let's actually get into it because the intros get longer and longer every single time. All right. Here's how we're going to do things today. We got a few different segments. We have the pre-cap, which is what I'm going to do right now, which is the summary of what we're going to talk about before we talk about it. We got the Premier League roundup, standings, maybe again see if anybody wants to adjust their predictions for the champion. We have the VAR room segment, which is just things happening around the world that we missed or missed initially. We have the wild card segment, which today should be a fun one. We have laws of the game, and then we're going to finish off, as usual, with fun facts. So, Prem roundup. Let's start with the most entertaining match of football I think I've ever watched in my entire life. Manchester United versus Liverpool.
Best game in the world.
Georgie, talk us through that.
Well, as my boy Van Dijk said, one team wanted to play, the other team was just happy for the draw and just parked the bus for the most of the time and then countered, as we know Manchester United like to do. But it was a weird game. I mean, there's a lot of hype to it. I mean, we talked prior, and you said it's gonna be It was just very, very hyped up, and I told you this as well. I said everybody's expecting Liverpool to win, and I don't think so. I told you it's gonna be a 1-1 game, and ended up being 0-0. But it had all the vibes of just I don't want to say a letdown in terms of hype, but
It was definitely a letdown. You can definitely say that.
I mean, I enjoyed it
definitely
obviously because I'm a Liverpool fan. But
You didn't enjoy it. You were messaging me.
I was saying, well, I
You
was
enjoyed that? I
messaging-
was assuming you'd be really tense during that.
I was tense. I was mad, tense, all that. But it's Liverpool, so I enjoy watching them at all times, especially when they're in control of the game for 85 to 90% of the game, and then it was just frustrating. Obviously, we didn't find the one goal that will probably win us the game, but we had plenty of chances. Like, I mean, especially the last 10, 15 minutes, shot after shot, like attack after attack. So just one of those days where the ball didn't want to go in the back of the net. Man United on the counter, that's what they usually do against the better teams. And yeah, it's typical United performance.
Joe?
Well, I was going to ask George, was any part of you worried that you were going to lose that game at some point. Like, because once
Yeah.
the ball doesn't go in, at some point, I start thinking, man, is this the one where
You have 100 shots and they get one.
and they get one and they take it?
Yeah.
Did you think that at all?
At one point, I messaged Javi because we were messaging each other throughout the game, and I was just like, Liverpool are getting exposed just because we were pushing so hard the last 20 minutes to get that goal, and Man United, it was always 3v3 in the back. Like at one point, it was Anthony against Van Dijk on the side, and I think it was Garnacho and somebody else just waiting on top of the box.
Yeah.
And I was like, if he makes that pass, it's 2v1 against Trent
I
or Joe
remember,
Gomez or somebody like that. So it was yeah. I mean, I was worried at one point, but in the end of the day, 0-0. I'm not too happy with that. But
I did tell Georgie, I said it's either going to be the most entertaining match of the weekend or the most boring match of the weekend. And unfortunately, it was the most boring match of the weekend. I was just disappointed because, Rebecca Lowe and all of those people on the network said that this is Tim Howard, that this is the biggest game in English football.
Yeah.
Because of the two teams playing. And about the atmosphere at Anfield when Manchester United comes and all of this. And then it was the most disappointing match I've ever seen. So that's the part that kind of bothered me as well. It also bothered me not that it bothered me, but Van Dijk's comments about one team wanted to win the game.
You didn't like that.
Well, no, because it's a tactical thing. It's not about. I mean, yes, it's about winning the game, but ultimately it's about how high can you finish up in the table. And there's going to be some games where you're going to have to realize that a win is not the priority if it puts you at too much of a risk to lose. So Manchester United going to Anfield, especially with Liverpool how they're doing this season, where they were top of the table last week. And Manchester United, who, not that they've been doing terribly, but clearly are not as good as Liverpool at the moment, of course they're going to try and settle for a draw. And if they can get something on the counterattack, that's even better. But they were totally happy with going away with a draw, which is completely fair, because if they try and just get too excited and go all out, attack, and try and win the game, probably end up losing that game against Liverpool. Yeah. It does surprise me a little bit that Ten Hag is all let's park the bus, Jose Mourinho style at this point. It's these guys are supposed to be known for him. I was telling this to Georgie, Rangnick, about we're going to turn these guys into pressing monsters and all of this stuff. And then you just sit back and park the bus.
Do you think, part of me thinks though with him, his hand is forced to park the bus when you look at the players he has to start, especially, going into that game with how many injuries they had. And they don't have a great roster, I don't think, to begin with. But to answer your question on how do I think the game went, it was somewhat to be expected. I feel like Ten Hag and United do a good job of, in big games, stopping what the other team wants to do, and then they don't have much going forward except for what you mentioned, which was the counterattack. I was surprised to see Varane start, but I think he played well. Obviously got a clean sheet. So we'll see if that continues. But
He got man of the match. He posted on Instagram.
He got man of the match?
Yeah.
Interesting. Onana, okay performance. There was a little, he dropped the ball.
Yeah.
And it fortunately just went out for a corner kick. But he didn't have much to do, to be honest. there wasn't any real saves that he had to make.
Just the Van Dijk header in the first half, and then Liverpool couldn't hit the target.
Yeah.
For the most part.
Honestly, United, I would say, had arguably the best scoring chance with Højlund.
Yeah,
Allison came out and his chest.
Yeah.
Which another goal, those are those saves, man. Allison just always, and he makes them look easy. That's the same one that the goalie in the Arsenal game missed. Havertz hit him and it glanced off his side and went in. But Allison always makes those saves.
The one thing I've learned is never to bet on Manchester United because they've disappointed me every single time. The last time was against Bournemouth, right?
Yeah.
A couple weeks ago. Against Bournemouth, where I was for sure that they were going to come back and win the game, and they ended up losing, 3-0
Because you bet on them when they went 1-0 down.
Yeah,
right?
I was like,
you bet on them to win this game?
No, not this game. Last game, I'm just saying, I told Georgie, I was like, I'm not betting on them anymore because every single time I do, they screw me over. So I'm not betting on Bournemouth. But
Man United, yeah.
The other side of Manchester City, did you know that this is the first game in 80 games or something crazy like that? I believe the stat was 80. Somebody fact check us, please, in the comments, because this is my memorization is not very good. But it was something like 80 where when they were up by, when they were leading at home, they didn't lose a game. in the last 80 matches.
Or they won every one or something.
Yeah, they've like won every single one or at least
I
tied.
can see that, yeah.
Or sorry, won every single one, not tied because they did tie. So they were up 2-0, and then Crystal Palace came back and scored 2 goals and made it 2-2 in the end with was it a last minute penalty?
Yep.
Yeah, last minute penalty. Yeah.
So Manchester City continues to struggle.
Yeah, they do.
They just don't look dangerous, man.
Yeah.
Like watching that game, even prior to the goal, yeah, they were pressing, they had more control, but it did feel like the goal was gonna come. But like usually when you watch Manchester City, you're like, all right,
There's no chance.
there's no chance. Like that's it.
Yeah. Oh,
Now
yeah.
I think after teams saw what Chelsea did, what Spurs did, what Arsenal did, like what Liverpool, like all these games, once you see them crumble a little bit, I think teams are getting more and more confident against Man City now.
Yep.
And they're like, we can actually play against these guys and get points off them. It's not like they're because the confidence and the mentality going into games is a huge thing.
Mm-hmm.
So now that you see a little crack in their armor, let's say, teams are like, all right, we there's something to play for. And I actually think Man City got lucky. I don't know if you guys watched the game, but I put in the group chat that Ederson, I think that should have been a red card where Ederson came out top of the box, slide tackles, the ball's way gone.
Yeah.
He goes past him, he shoots right away. That's an open goal. So that's a goal scoring opportunity. It should be a red card. So I have no idea how VAR didn't give that a red, but even he's looking shaky because I remember there was 1 or 2 things during the game where I don't know if he I don't know what it was. I think
There's one of the goals he did something. I'm trying to think what it was now that you say it.
Speaking of red cards, though, this weekend, lots of red cards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Saturday and Sunday, right? Plenty. All everywhere.
Well, I feel like to your point on why City doesn't look the same. Before, if you went up and you're like, hey, we're going to go play against Manchester City, you were probably going to give up 4, 5, 6 goals very easily. That now, especially with De Bruyne being out, obviously Haaland being out hurts, like you're not as worried that they're going to score 4, 5, 6 goals. Yeah, they'll score 1 or 2, but it's not like they're that great defensively. And I think a lot of teams realize that and they're like, hey, if we can go score 1 or 2 goals against them, and if we can keep them to 1 or 2, all of a sudden now we have a game on. You know what I mean? So we'll see how this goes. But
do you guys think that teams are finally starting to figure out how to beat Manchester City? Or do you think because of some of the injuries and some of the things that have happened with their roster recently that teams just have a better chance of being able to do it now? Does that make sense? Because like what I mean by that is that Barcelona was so dominant for a while until teams figured out, like Chelsea and the champions, Bayern Munich figured out there's certain ways to beat them in certain spaces that they give up, that if you exploit those spaces, you're going to be able to beat them. We go through those types of patterns in the history of football where a team comes out with a formation and with a certain style of play that's so dominant until people figure out how to beat it. And then it's like almost like there's another, and then like I'm thinking about like Chelsea and Conte with when he started playing with a three back. And then everybody started playing with a 3-back because they were like, wow, look at how good they're doing. So then everybody started playing with a 3-back after that. So do you guys think it's that people have figured it out, or they're just going through a tough time with their roster that they can't play the same style that they've been used to playing or as effective?
I think that just with the people they've lost and then the people they've brought in, they don't have the same level of, I don't want to say quality going forward, but they don't have as much consistency going forward, especially coming out of the midfield. Like, because I think they're putting a lot of it on Bernardo Silva's shoulders, really. And Foden is great, but he's not as consistent as someone like Gundogan is and was in terms of like feeding the ball further up the field, if that makes any sense. So I think it's a mixture of the two, but the biggest one I'd say is the injuries and then the lack of replenishing people that they've lost.
Yeah, and I think, again, if 1, 2, 3 results don't go your way, your confidence kind of lowers down a bit and you're not as confident as you were. And then all the teams are finding, like, you can actually go at Manchester City now. Like, if you stay back and defend for 90 minutes, you're not going to win that game. Like, Man City are going to score. It's just a matter of time. If they keep coming, they're going to score. If you go at Manchester City, and I think we've talked about it in the podcast, if you have a real go at them, that's the only way you're going to get points because they're not as good defensively. They're not as good as tracking back on the counter. So you have to take your chances and go forward if you want to have a chance of one scoring or two getting points off them. So I think more teams are being braver now and taking more chance, more risks of going forward. Where before it was like, all right, let's park the bus and hope for a 0-0 or 1-0 loss or whatever, and hopefully we can like catch them to tie it up 1-1. Where now it's like, let's go out and win the game. Why not? Especially with the past results. What is it? 4 in a row, or 4 ties in a row.
Yeah.
And also, another interesting thing is now Manchester City don't play for a while because they're going to the Club World Cup. So the Liverpool, Villas, Spurs, Arsenals, if they can win all their games, Manchester City could be up to like 10 to 12 points behind. So coming back into that plays a mental toll on you as well. It's like, man, we got to, even though you still have those games, it's like, man, I'm 12 points behind first place. Like, that's a lot of points.
Kind of crazy.
And it's not like it was last year where it's just trying to catch Arsenal, because they're going to have to catch everybody. Because even now they're 4 points? 4 points back of Villa. Yeah.
Yeah, 4 of Villa and Liverpool, and then 5
of Arsenal.
Yeah.
And they're only
crazy.
1 point ahead of Tottenham.
Yeah.
Which is crazy because Tottenham has had a really bad spell of games recently. And they're still only 1 point ahead of Tottenham.
Yeah, it's interesting when
6 ahead of United.
I still think that Manchester City is going to be Manchester City, and they're going to come back and finish in second or third. I mean, they could still finish in first. Don't get me wrong, because there's still plenty of time.
Plenty of time, man.
But as we talked about in the last podcast, it is a good time for the Premier League when there's a lot more competition than just Manchester City and the one other team in the Premier League who's chasing them the whole year.
Yeah.
So,
100%.
speaking of that, Aston Villa versus Brentford. I am now officially a Villa fan, Joe.
Wow. Wait, what?
Because Aston Villa was down 1-0 to Brentford.
Oh, this is where you...
Away at Brentford. And I just had a feeling. I told Georgie, put it all on black, baby. Put it on the comeback. So Aston Villa won me a little bit of money.
There we go.
Aston Villa won me a little bit of money. And they all, probably most of it, thankfully, to the red card.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which
Did you place the bet before the red card?
Yeah, I placed it right before the red card, a couple, like maybe 5-10 minutes before the red card. So when it happened, I was like, please give him a red card. Please give him a red card. Because if not, then... Aston Villa did not look great in that game, by the way.
Yeah.
Brentford was defending and parking the bus. Aston Villa was just moving the ball so slowly. They had the ball in the attacking third the whole time, but they just weren't really creating too much because they weren't moving the ball quickly enough or trying to play dangerous balls or anything until that red card came, which I was surprised that it was a red card because by the book, it's a red card. If you look at it, cleats are up, studs are up on the shins. The thing was that he didn't really make good contact with him, and the player actually stayed on his feet and kept playing.
Yeah.
So I was like, I wonder if the referee is going to say like it'll be harsh to give him a red card if you didn't even injure the guy, or if, because if the guy goes down and makes a scene of it, then you give him a red card. But he just stayed playing, so it's kind of like you're going to give him a red card for that. But it was the right decision.
Yeah, I mean, you made the biggest of differences. If there's no red card, I don't think Villa even get a goal, to be honest. It was that bad, like, of them going forward. And then the game, Martinez and what's his name? From Brentford, the forward.
The one that we went down on the ground. And
yeah, they were just the whole
I'm surprised
scene.
how Martinez didn't get a red card.
Yeah, I have no idea. Joe, did you see that?
No, I didn't. I heard about it though.
Yeah,
at the end, I was trying to look up to see who got
the guy was on the
second
ground.
red
Martinez.
card.
I don't know why he wanted to. He literally went to pick him up by his jersey and just
Why?
grabbed him. I have no idea.
Because the guy was so Martinez like bumped into him when he went to go get the ball or whatever, and the guy went on the ground and milked it. And so Martinez was like, "What are you doing?" And he grabbed him by the jersey to like pick him up or whatever. But it's like you can't do that without getting away with at least a yellow. Like you got to get a yellow at least. But then there was like a brawl, and then one of the other guys ended up pushing another guy and then got a red card or whatever. But it is one of the reasons why this sport makes it like we look so bad in comparison to some of these other sports.
Because people do
literally like nothing, and the guy's like on the ground crying and stuff.
It also is Emmy though. You're already winning the game. I don't know why.
Exactly.
You want to go pick him up? Like let him. Okay, if he wants to lay there and waste time, they're losing. I'll just stand here.
And now your teammate just got a red card because of you.
Yeah,
it's insane.
Yeah,
That's when I told Javi, I was like, you better cash out, boy, because you never know what happens.
So Georgie wanted me to cash out. And I was like, no, why am I going to cash out?
Like the 99th minute.
Well, because like I would have lost maybe $15-20 by cashing out, right?
You'd have lost 11, 12.
All right, but still, I mean, the chances of Brentford scoring when being a man down. Plus, that red card was towards the end. It was like an injury time already.
Yeah.
So I was like,
he was worried that like now that they're even playing again, that Brentford might come
what
back.
I did the same bet before.
Did you cash out?
I cashed out as soon as Aston Villa scored. I cashed out. But so I could have won 20 more if I waited until like the final whistle. I was like, no way. I'm cashing out. I've seen the Man City, perfect example the day before.
I don't want to risk it, yeah.
I cashed out
Bet
and
big,
I
win
put
big,
money
baby.
on Crystal Palace to tie it up, and then boom, it works out. Because sometimes you never know. You never know.
yeah, I was gonna take the risk anyway.
Yeah.
That's the kind of
Javi,
I
like-
just then that's why I'm so bad at the betting stuff, because I typically
Let it ride.
yeah,
Let
like I
it
typically
ride.
just don't make the right decision. I make the decision that I'm like excited about, and then it just screws me in the end. So
Yeah.
you're always gonna say, I wish I would have put more money down, or I wish I would have put the money
Yeah.
down. And at the end of the day, it's like
Hey, it was a good day.
it was a good day. It was a good day. I think
say, as long as
thanks
you-
to Aston Villa,
Or win money. Good day, right?
Joe, our boys. Top of the table, baby. Once again,
I was getting nervous a little bit
against the
today.
Brighton that hasn't looked very good recently.
No, but it was. We struggle at finishing our chances. We really, really do, and it's going to come back and bite us at some point. Like, we're very lucky, I think, now to be sitting top. We put in great performances. Declan Rice is absolutely amazing. I think we say that every single week, and every single week he seems to get better and better and better. Your boy Odegaard, I thought, played phenomenally well.
I'm telling you, man.
The outside of the foot pass he had to Saka on that through ball, it was when Saka, I think, cut it back, and then Martinelli missed the open net, but just perfect weight on the ball. He
looks like
he's growing into it more, too, which is getting better. And it was good to see Jesus score in a close game that he normally scores when we're already up 2-3-0, but he scored a pretty important goal today.
Yeah, and he was completely by himself, unmarked.
Yeah.
But I'm telling you, Odegaard looks like in his head he knows he has like 12 seconds on the ball in those tight spaces, which I don't know how he does.
Yeah.
Because the ball is glued to his foot every single time he gets it. And he knows exactly where he's at. He knows exactly where everyone is at. And he also does a really good job of making the decision whether to like keep moving the ball sideways or try and look for a forward pass.
Yeah. He also, I feel like a lot of his touches are awkward, and it throws off the defenders that are really close to him. Because like some of his touches, he keeps the ball directly like under his center of gravity, almost like he turns 2 touches into one. He'll bring it in, control it, and then push it out, and then play the pass. So it's like he kind of gets 3 different movements out of the ball, but is all doing it all in 1 and 2 touch. And then Kai Havertz, of course, seals the game. Money well spent. It's just
He's proven me wrong.
So far he's growing into it. He's growing into it.
I'll wait until we win the Premier League with him scoring a few more goals.
Hey,
And then you're gonna celebrate.
No, he has been impressive lately because he fits I do think now seeing him in a few more games, he does fit the style that Arsenal, or the type of player that Arsenal need, which was like Martinelli and Saka when they were coming up. Is like just hardworking. Like he reminds me a lot of Martinelli a couple years ago when Martinelli was first getting the opportunity. It's like the dude was pressing, he was making runs, he was running all over the place, and that's why he was so effective, and that's why people liked him so much, because of his work rate. Havertz does the same thing, and now because of all of that, he's starting to see some of the benefits, which is scoring some goals and being in the right positions to score those goals. So I do think now I feel like he's definitely fitting in a lot more.
Helps too. I mean, with how much he runs, obviously, but then he's also a really big person out there too. So he's hard to dribble past. He's easy. He can easily win the ball in the air. There's a lot of. Don't sleep on Havertz, man. There's a lot of things I think he can offer, and he's getting more and more confident. But we'll see.
I only watched the first half because I switched to the Villa game. But
it was never in doubt. The Arsenal game was
Yeah.
never really in doubt for me. And I told Georgie
Really?
I was gonna place a bet on Arsenal. The payout wasn't very good.
yeah, so it was like
So I was just like, it's all right. But I probably should have.
Gross should have equalized, and that would have.
Yeah.
It was nervy for me for a minute. Raya though, clean sheet with all those. tough
that's
saves
what I
he
was.
had.
That's what I was going to talk about. In the first half, he had 3 pretty bad passes, like long balls. That was the whole point of why they brought him. And he dropped the ball on.
One of those crosses. I'm like, what
Yeah.
are you doing?
He dropped it like right in front.
Yeah.
And that's confidence.
But he picked it up. But he picked it up. It
He
wasn't
did.
that bad. It wasn't that dangerous. 'Cause
Yeah,
it was
but-
not like somebody was right there, but he like stopped
But
it. and
if
went
there was
backwards.
somebody
Right,
there,
right.
that's a tap in. Like,
Yeah,
You know,
but I think that conversation is over because it's very clear that Arteta has picked
Well,
Raya,
yeah.
and Ramsdale is going to be out the door very soon.
I think the conversation's over. I just want him to be
well,
a confident
yeah,
goalie moving forward. That's what I'm
The
worried
conversation's
about.
been over. I don't think there was
Yeah.
any ever doubt for who's going to be in there. But I don't think Raya's confidence is there.
I don't. Yeah.
Anyway, Arsenal top of the table. You know what's crazy about this whole thing is that I feel more confident about Arsenal winning the Premier League this season than I did last season when they were like at this point they were like miles ahead of everyone else. Maybe not miles ahead, but they were. Everybody's like, "What's going on?" And the reason for that is because it doesn't feel like there's going to be a massive drop off this year with the performances that we've been having. I think Joe said like it might come back to bite us, but I think we've just been overall a more consistent team in terms of the results that we've been getting around the league.
Yeah.
Whereas
that.
in the past few years, even last year when they were doing so well, you always had it in the back of your head like there's going to be a big drop off, and it's just a matter of time before it gets here. This season, I don't have that feeling. So I could be wrong.
Losing Declan Rice would be like the only thing I feel like that could cause that. But
Next game against Liverpool.
Other results around the Premier League.
big one.
Chelsea 2-0 against Sheffield United. Good win for Chelsea.
Cole
Still not
Palmer looks
consistent
good
enough, but Everton beat Burnley 2-0, which is fantastic for them with a 10-point deduction out of the relegation zone.
Yeah. They're rolling, man.
Sean Dyche, man.
Yeah, they're rolling.
You know
I
he
was
makes
looking-
everyone train with shin guards, by the way? Did you know that?
He's old school, so
He's old school. He checks them at training. I see there's like video clips of him looking at the players, and he's like, "What are those? What are those? What are those?" By the way, one of the
Today, did you
one
see
of
the
the
shin guard?
players, yeah, did you see it, Joe?
No.
Which game was it? The Villa game.
The Villa game, yeah.
So Villa versus Brentford. One of the players' shin guards fell off, and I kid you not.
It was like
I'm gonna hold this up real quick. Hold on. I'm gonna for the people who are watching this on video. This is my Chips Ahoy cardboard. This is literally maybe small, maybe even smaller than this. This is literally the size of a shin guard, and it's funny because the referee picks it up.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Whose shin guard is this?" And he gives it to the guy without saying anything.
Yep.
I wonder. I got to look at the rules because this could be a law of the game segment. Is there a rule on the size of the shin guard? Because it used to be something
used to be.
stupid like
Yeah, there were-
2 inches from your ankle, maximum, like above your ankle has to be. So I wonder if there's a requirement now, or do they just need to be officially approved? Because shin guards are supposed to be approved by whoever makes them or some organization or whatever.
Yeah.
But players are wearing shin guards that are essentially pointless. There's no reason
Yeah.
why. There's no need for them to wear shin guards that small at this point. Might as well just not wear them at all.
I wear those shin guards.
I know
I'll bring them next time. They're literally like
they fit in a wallet.
really.
They're like yeah.
They fit in a wallet.
Yeah. I wore those for
Just-
Seriously.
DCFC.
You need 2 credit cards.
Yeah.
Honestly. So I just wonder if there's any rules. Maybe somebody can explain this to us in the comment section. Is there any rules on the size of your shin guards? Because clearly the referee saw it, picked
Yeah.
it up,
Yeah.
and gave it to him like there was no issue.
You
Yeah.
would assume there would have to be rules on it.
There has to be, but
You would-
I mean,
yeah. There's
maybe
rules on
now
everything.
there isn't. I don't know.
If not, there will be now.
Yeah. Newcastle 3-0 against Fulham.
Mm-hmm.
So Newcastle does well there. West Ham beat Wolves 3-0. And that pretty much wraps up the weekend for the most part.
The thing I was looking up here for 1 second. Oh, talking about Everton. Their 10-point deduction. They're at 16 points with the 10-point deduction.
Yep.
If they didn't have it, they would be tied with Brighton and ahead of Chelsea.
Yep.
In what, ninth place?
9th place.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
I don't know. I saw it somewhere. Sean Dyche has more wins than Roberto De Zerbi at Brighton this season.
This season.
Crazy. That's insane.
This season.
That is
Because they're
crazy.
like one is
Like
amazing coach, and then the
Yeah.
other one was not really looked
Yeah.
at.
But you're also only 18, 19 games into the season
Yeah.
now.
yeah.
So it's like over the span of a season, that might be a little bit more impressive.
Yeah, it's
Because
crazy.
in the
Sean Dyche.
first stretch. So, and then the only one game we didn't talk about really was Tottenham beat Nottingham Forest on Friday, but Bournemouth and Luton, the game got abandoned because Lockyer from Luton went down. And what I didn't know is that they said this. It happened to him.
Second time, 6
Yeah,
months.
I heard it was the second time. Yeah, scary stuff.
So
man.
he had surgery to fix the problem, apparently. He got cleared, and then it happened again.
he has to be in now.
Yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately, right?
Yeah, that's scary.
And he's so good, so important for them anyway. But it just you got to take care of your health first, man. That's scary stuff.
I was telling Georgie that the one positive situation that came out of the Eriksson Euros situation was that teams are way more prepared to
Everyone's
deal with
prepared
that
for that
stuff
now.
Yeah.
with that stuff now than they were before.
Yeah.
Like, and not just in this sport, but literally in all the sports because of that happening. I mean, when we were at DCFC, as soon as that Eriksson thing happened, within the next week, we had somebody come in and give us a CPR certification course for all of the
Yeah.
players
To
and
make
stuff.
sure everyone knows how to do it.
Yep.
Yeah. That's good. I mean, it's
Yeah, you
it's
need
needed
it because
because
you
never know.
You never really know.
Well, it's happening everywhere. I mean, think LeBron James' son happened too.
And he's back now.
Yeah, he's back playing, obviously, but it's
It's scary, man.
Yeah,
So the
doesn't
good
matter.
thing, I guess, is that I'm sure
Scary.
this is not the only player that this has happened to that's come back from it and been able to play. So I think the good thing is that now they're doing studies and tests and all of that to clear players. Obviously, this is unfortunate because, you know, I assume they took all the right measures to clear him to get back into it, and it happened again for whatever reason. But it is nice that this isn't a career-ending situation every single time.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
typically with enough tests and stuff, they can have people come back. I just feel bad because as a player and even as a fan and as a coach, whatever, you probably always have it in the back of your head that this could happen again because it happened once to you.
Yeah,
Could happen at any
it'll be
moment.
really hard. I feel like if you're married with kids, you know, like what do you do? Even if without kids, but that'd be a scary thing. I don't know if I could. Could you go back and play after something like that?
It's like those injuries where like skateboarders, mountain bikers, things like that, where people break their arms and break their legs and have like near death experiences, and then the first thing they want to do when they get out is start training again to
Do
go
it
back
again.
into it. Some people, that's their mentality, and then other people are just like, that's it for me. It just depends on the type of person you are, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah. I'm just glad that he's okay. And I mean, they mentioned right away that after like 20, 30 minutes, he was like responsive and he was
Yeah.
like, everybody was more upbeat about the situation compared to, because when he went down, it was scary, man. Like watching it, I was like,
Yeah, I didn't watch it. I was coaching, but when you just got to think that the response time to that is so fast. It's got to be so fast now in the Premier League.
Yeah.
That they're on it right away as soon as they see it. And plus, the thing is, before it really happened often, they didn't really know what was going on. So players are just kind of freaking out. Nobody knows what's going on. Now, the moment they see that stuff, the medical staff is like, we already know. Cardiac arrest. Boom, let's go. We're on.
of either team too. So it's
Yeah.
like whichever medical staff is closest to goes right away. I remember watching. I wasn't watching this game. I remember watching the Eriksson one when it happened.
Yeah.
My first thought was like, oh my god, that he just died. He just because instantly just and falls.
Yeah.
It's scary,
Well,
scary stuff.
That one, if you were watching that one live, your eyes were like glued to the TV.
Yeah.
Because first of all, they had the cameras going on it the whole time. So like typically, I think now they won't do that ever again.
Yeah.
Now the moment it happens, they'll go to a commercial break or they'll show
Yeah.
the fans or whatever. But the Eriksson one, they literally kept the cameras rolling as they were trying to revive him on the field.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you could see through like, even though they were trying to make the bubble around him or whatever,
Like
you could see through the people's legs how his body was like
Yeah.
coming up and down through for the CPR. So that's freaky. It's like, and it's not even, I mean, I've never seen anything like that in person, but even just watching it on television, watching it live, I couldn't believe it. I was like, oh my God, I'm literally watching a man die right in front.
yeah.
Yeah.
Until those pictures started surfacing. So like we didn't know what was going on because they eventually came out with like the blankets to cover him and stuff like that. But maybe like 30 minutes after that happened, pictures started surfacing up of him like holding his head as they were carting him off. So everybody was like kind of starting to relax a little bit that was happening.
Yeah, because
It's crazy, man.
wow.
Some scary stuff.
Crazy.
Scary stuff.
So yeah. So I think that's probably it for the Prem Roundup for this week. Next segment, let's go into the VAR room segment. Stuff from around the footballing world. First one, or the one that we have for today, is a couple of referee. What do you want to call it? Referee
Hirings, I guess.
yeah.
Announcements?
So
Yeah.
the Rebecca Welch is going to be the first ever female referee in the Premier League. How do you think that's going to go?
It's weird though because weren't there like female referees in the World Cup,
Yep.
right? So like to think that it's
Linesman, right?
linesman for sure.
Yeah,
I mean, there's
linesman
been
for sure.
linesmen in the Premier League as well. So to be the center ref,
Yeah.
there's definitely in Germany. That's in
Yeah.
in one of the.
I think Germany is. I think you're right, and there might have been some in the World Cup. Now that you say that,
Yeah, I
think
feel
so.
like there was some in the World Cup. I could be wrong, but it's gonna be interesting because, like, do you think players are gonna act different, or do you think they're just gonna remain the same? Because they're surrounding the ref like crazy now. I don't think there's gonna be pushing and shoving 100%.
I think they'll act a little different.
Yeah.
I think they'll act different, but I guess the way I'm looking at it is the refs right now are doing a terrible job anyway, so it's like a win to win-win because either they're going to be just as bad and then, well, everyone's bad, it doesn't matter, or she's going to be the best ref and get some of these calls right.
Yeah.
I
So
don't think it'll matter, though, too
it
much.
depends because the players nowadays can get away with a lot of things when they talk to the referees. Like you see, you don't even have to like all you have to do is read their lips when they say some things to the referees after a call, and it's like nothing. The referee just carries on with play or whatever. The Diego Dalot gets the 2 yellows, and doesn't seem like he said anything like super personal or anything to the referee, but he gets 1, and then he says something else, gets another one, gets 2 yellows from the exact same incident, and then he gets a red card. Where typically you see players say bad things to the referees all the time or to the linesmen, even when they get the calls right.
Yeah.
So that's something that it's almost just referees are just getting used to. But I agree with Joe is like the players now push referees or they touch them at least.
Yeah.
They get in their faces. Sometimes they'll even hold their arms down from giving their players a yellow card. They like hold their arms down a little bit. You cannot get anywhere near this referee. Like just because of what's going to happen afterwards if you grab her arm or if you push her or whatever, there's going to be like some pretty serious consequences. So I do think players are going to definitely have to act different.
It actually might help the game, I think, a lot more than people give it credit for. Because I think back to like when I was a kid, when dad's around a lot of time, like boys will be boys and you'll act a little crazier, and then mom or grandma would be around and like, oh, mind your P's and Q's. We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see.
I do like that the Premier League overall is bringing in new referees.
Yeah.
Like even like prior to what we're talking about right now, in the past 2-3 weeks, there's been new referees. I think there's a referee from Australia. I think he was the ref for the Aston Villa game. I could be wrong. No, it was the game yesterday. But I think he's been great. The 2-3 games he's done now, amazing. No complaints at all. So I think it's good to refresh the referees and bring in new ones, and I think it's gonna help the Premier League a lot by doing that. So the more the better.
I just think that the only thing that scares me is that at some point there's going to be some idiot who's very old school who says something stupid
Like
to
Joey
the referee, like Joey Barton,
Yep.
who's going to say something really stupid that has absolutely nothing to do with her refereeing.
Yeah. Oh, this is gonna happen.
And then next thing you know, he's going to be on the news, and then it's going to be so.
Like a coach, you mean, or just a pundit, or just
No,
some random-
like a player on the field.
Oh,
A player on
yeah.
the field that's going to say something to the referee, like, all the things that you say to that people say to a female when they're pissed
Yeah.
off that are like very old fashioned, and I think that's going to kind of not ruin it a little bit. But I am also curious to see how they deal with guys being in her face, like being like you know how they are.
Yeah.
So I wonder how she's going to do, because I do think that they tell these referees that they do have to be conversational. They can't just say, don't talk to me.
Yeah.
They have to talk. You have to talk to them. And you see, most of the Premier League referees are actually pretty good at that, where they go back and forth and they talk to the players, you could see. So I wonder how she's going to be in that way as well.
Yeah, the whole environment.
So curious to see that one. Let me see, when is that one? Looking at the
Thanks this weekend,
article.
right?
So it's going to be Fulham against Burnley on December 23rd. So
Saturday.
that's also probably a pretty good game to give
good,
her instead of throwing her into what's the next one? Is it Arsenal Liverpool?
Yeah,
Arsenal
I mean,
Liverpool that day, yeah.
Imagine throwing her into Arsenal Liverpool and just being like, all right, go on and deal with that. So I think that'll be a good game. We'll take a look and we'll come back with our thoughts on how she did. But the idea is that she should be invisible as
Yeah.
any referee,
Yeah.
Yep.
right? And then the other one in the same topic is Sam Allison will become the first black referee for 15 years to oversee a Premier League match as well. So that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Although that does surprise me.
Yeah, like
You
you're saying
think
off air, it's really surprising.
You
Really
think there would
surprising.
have been more black referees in the game?
Especially like 50, like it's weird to say in 15 years. Like 15 years is a long time.
Yeah.
It's not like we're talking about like past like few years. Like 15, you're thinking about like Sir Alex years.
And I wonder if
Yeah.
it makes sense to also bring in some referees from around the country, because most of them are what, British? Most of the referees in the Premier League.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would assume so.
So I'm just thinking like the only
mean from
restriction,
around the world?
that you need, or the only requirement that you should need is to be able to speak fluently enough to communicate with the players. So why don't they bring in some referees from different parts of the world, South America? Because I'm sure there's a decent amount of South American referees who can speak English. Because typically, when you're doing these international friendlies or these international tournaments, most of the time the language that they communicate is in English.
Yeah, yeah.
So I don't see why you don't bring in some South American referees or.
I assume it has to do with you have to go through their system.
Yeah, the English.
Yeah.
The English FA.
So
Don't
like
they have the pro? Isn't it all pro?
No, because when you go into like the coaching course for the U.S. soccer, you have the coaching course, and then under it's like the ref program too. That I would assume you have to do the same thing in England or Australia or.
I just thought that there was. So there's the.
Unless you're accredited through FIFA, I guess. but-
FIFA for tournaments is different.
Yeah.
But it's called pro, PRO. It's like the Professional Referees Organization. I thought that was the world governing body of referees.
Oh.
There's one big agency where these referees are all going to for all of these tournaments, because there has to be some sort of thing for when they do like the World Cup and the Euros and things like that, Copa America. So I just assumed that you could just go through that, and then
I mean, it could be because there's some. I mean, the Premier League referees are going to Saudi Arabia or whatever, Dubai, to ref games.
right.
Well, I bet you like as a ref, you're like an independent contractor though, and then to be employed by a specific area, they require you to have a specific license. But I guess if you had your pro one here and you were good enough, and the Premier League said, "Hey, do you want to come over?" I don't think they'd make you
Well, they have the Australian
retake classes or anything. So they'd just say, "Yeah, you're A license or whatever from Australia
Yeah. So
Yeah.
equals our A license here. So let's go."
I don't know if they brought him in recently or if he's been in the system and came his way up or whatever, but that's probably an interesting thing to look into for next.
There was a segment that they did where I think it was Jamie Carragher and Gary Neville and somebody else went through like a mini refereeing course. Did you see that
Yeah.
one where they had him do the offsides?
Oh,
It's actually quite funny. So they put him on the sideline, and they had them call offside situations. So they had a couple like players who would run, and they would do that,
Like
and they would
fake
just
play the ball.
and they would just they would evaluate him afterwards with the video to see if they were right or if they were wrong. But I would want to do something like that for fun.
That would be funny.
Just
That
take
would
one
be
of those
funny.
courses and see how close I could get, or how many of those calls I could get right. Because we talked about
Should
it.
we go up to Keyworth one day and just
just get a couple
do
players.
a VAR session and see how well Coach Javi can actually call some of these fouls?
Yeah, probably not very. Not. That's why I said I wouldn't be a linesman.
Linesman
is
is
Linesman would be really tough,
hard. Central referee, I would.
Well, at
definitely
this
do.
point, you don't have to be a linesman anyway.
Well,
The VAR's gonna save you regardless.
Yeah.
You get it right or wrong, it's
yeah, but if you consistently get them wrong, they're gonna be like, all right, what are you doing?
Yeah.
So that's the VAR room segment. Let's move on to the next segment, which is the wild card segment.
Dun, dun,
This one I'm excited about because, and I know I didn't give you guys enough time to really think about
Yeah.
something.
Oh, I've got plenty. I'm plenty.
But for the wild card segment, I asked these guys to think, and this is the wild card segment. Introduce a new rule that wouldn't change the basic structure of the game, but make it more interesting. So nothing like, so we said nothing like no offsides, because that changes the whole structure of how the game is played. Tactics and things would just be completely different. Did you guys think of any good ones?
The first thing that came to my mind was doing, instead of having one center ref and two linesmen, having three refs out there roaming the whole field.
So just
And all three refs can
So
blow the
basically-
whistle, can make calls, but they're not stuck to the sideline.
what
So
if
you-
both blow the whistle for different things?
Yeah. Then that would be
that's happened in Sunday League in indoor where I used to play. So they do two referees and they do them on diagonals. but then like one referee wouldn't call something, and then this referee would call something that was on the other referee's side, and it would be like,
why are you
why are
is that
you
good?
calling it
Yeah.
when he should have called it, or like, so
Yeah.
so basically what you're saying is essentially give the sideline referees a whistle.
No. And have them go out there and ref, and fully ref, and because if you really think about it, we don't need them for offsides anymore, so they can go call other stuff, and you can have more refs closer to plays and closer to things.
Yeah, but who's going to call offsides?
VAR.
Yeah, but
That's who calls it anyways.
But so you're going to just let everything play on an offsides now?
That's what they do. That's what they do anyways, and then VAR comes back and says,
Okay, fair
offside.
enough. Fair enough. Or they could just
then-
still call it and then see if
But if he's-
VAR
It would
fixes
get
it or-
way
Yeah.
too crowded though. Like I know they can stay wide, but that's the reason why they stay wide. Because if you add, like even referees now, they get hit with the ball.
Yeah.
Imagine you had 2 more players down there running around. Like I don't know.
Now, would there be restrictions to where these referees, or like,
would there be 3?
yeah, would it be like this one stays mostly in the middle, this one stays mostly here, this one stays mostly here?
I would say like they would work them in like, if you broke the field up into thirds each way, you would have it. You would almost have like a heat map of each general area, if that makes any sense. So the center ref would still cover like the same pattern, just less of it, and then the other refs would still move. So like if you were on one side, you wouldn't be going all the way over there. You could still call things if you saw something, but having more people, more eyes out there, the getting in the way thing would be the hardest one. But they could also stand behind the defensive line and look at the field, almost like from a goalie's point of view.
Yeah. And they do have the earpieces, so
Yep,
they can still
they talk to
communicate
each
about
other.
whether they're going to make the calls or whether they're not going to make the calls, or did you see that? Should I
Yeah.
call it?
So
Should I
now
not call
we're getting 20 more people added to
Well,
the VAR.
But that's the thing.
Terrible communication.
Yeah.
Wasn't it in the Champions League?
They all talk to each other anyways. You're not adding anyone to the communication.
Do they still have those 2 refs that are on the goal lines? You remember those?
Yeah, no, not.
They don't have those anymore, right?
No.
What were those for? For like just to see if the ball went out of bounds?
Yeah, there was
They
like
didn't have
ball out
those
of bounds,
at
but they could
Arsenal,
also call, not call, but they could also talk to the referee
Yeah,
when certain
they
like,
all
fouls
do.
were.
Oh, really?
They all do that.
Like the
already.
4th official can, yeah.
But they would just be on the line.
Mm-hmm.
So there was 5 referees out there. It was the 3, and then
Yeah.
it was the 2 on each end line. So
I don't know.
so
I don't know
5 plus the 4th official, so that's 6. But that was before VAR was instituted.
I would want that.
So I
job.
wonder if they changed it.
Give me that job
Just sit on the sidelines.
to be right behind the goal.
But yeah, you think that. But if you only get one call during the whole game and you mess it up, can you imagine? Like the ball goes over the line and you don't.
Oh,
see
sorry, I
it.
wasn't paying attention. I was checking my crypto.
Sorry, guys.
Georgie would be checking his crypto.
I would. Damn right I would.
So okay, so I would, to add to your point though, Joe, I would suggest that they also break the game up into 3 thirds, and they switch every third. So not break the game up. What I'm
That
what
makes
I'm
sense.
saying.
So like you.
So like the first
every
30 you're in the
30 minutes
middle, then the next 30 I'm in the middle, and then the last 30 Georgie's in the middle, and then we switch, we rotate different positions.
It would be interesting too from a player's perspective, because you would, if they were out there and you would talk to them more often. So you'd be talking to 3 people opposed to just 1.
Yeah, but can you like they already hate it when you go to a linesman. So now you're gonna go to one ref over there.
Well, it would help because there are 3 refs also that are going to be closer to each other. So when things do get hectic like that, you have 3 people that can actually get like that are there quickly, opposed to one who's 70 yards.
But then what
the other direction.
What happens if one referee calls fouls left and right, and the opposite side? So this one gives
That's what I'm
a
saying,
penalty
like the
easy.
consistency, right?
They're a team, man. They got to talk about it. Just like what happens if
Like
one
this-
player turns
this-
it over all the time.
This guy gives a penalty easy,
Mm-hmm.
and then the same thing happens there, and like the whole team sprints to that ref. Like, yo, that guy did it, and then I don't know.
So yeah, so I was gonna say that it's like
So it doesn't change the rules, but clearly it
It makes it interesting.
makes it interesting.
So the consistency would be a problem because, like you said, if there's a referee who's a little
yeah.
bit more like strict,
but
he's
they're
calling more.
They're all on the field though, right? So they could all call it.
That's also the positive is that technically they're all working together to make a decision. Whereas instead of just for the most part it being the central referee who makes the ultimate decision, they can all come together and make a better decision. Ideally,
It's just like you guys ever seen Tom Cruise Minority Report?
no.
No.
For real?
There was 3
You guys have never
referees.
seen. You guys have never seen Minority Report?
There was a Premier League match in the movie, and there was 3
What?
referees.
Oh my god!
But then how are they going to communicate?
No, the whole premise. You guys have never seen. Have you ever heard of this movie before?
No, Joe.
For real?
Yeah.
What? Never mind then. You don't get the reference at all. But it applies amazing here. The analogy works for all the people, throw it in the comments and explain to these guys what the Minority Report is.
Just put the movie on right now. Let's watch it.
We
right.
could because we started so early today.
Okay, any more thoughts on that, Georgie?
On the refs?
Yeah.
Nah, scratch it. It's like Sinbin.
Scratch it. I have another one.
Okay.
That's better because I don't have one.
Let's. So you can take Georgie's spot in this one because Georgie doesn't have one.
Well, what we were talking about a few minutes ago got me thinking of it. What if you just did away with shin guards?
Nah,
I don't think it would change a single thing. When have you ever heard of somebody getting a shin injury? When's the last time somebody got a shin injury?
it doesn't really change much to be honest.
I don't think that
But
changes.
Then why do they still like? What's the point of them still? Just because it is something that
Old school.
if you force people to wear them, it's something else that can be sold.
I think it's just old school. I think it's just a rule that they haven't revisited yet. I think in the next 5 to 10 years they'll just get rid of it.
And just have
Because I mean,
then what would there
I
be?
don't think they'll ever get rid of it.
Would there be a sock requirement then? Do you still have to wear socks, or then no sock? Like
I don't know. Nowadays, I mean, they're getting. It looks like they don't care very much because people are ripping holes into their socks now to the point where there's very little thread. There's
do you guys
very
understand
little
why they do? Like I don't understand why
Yeah,
sock
it's
has
for calves.
circulation. I think it's
cramps and stuff
BS.
like that.
I think it's BS. I think it's somebody.
because it's less tight, so it's easier for the blood flow to get to your. Because
Yes.
they are tight, and it makes sense because if it's tight, the blood can't get there.
I'll
That
tell you what.
Is
Yes.
it
basic science, but
It's like when they rip holes into the back of their boots now. Have you seen that in the ankle? They rip a hole into the boot. They carve like a rectangular
I've never
where
seen
your
that.
ankle
I
is
haven't seen that. Oh,
And-
for blisters.
for blisters apparently, and then also the socks thing, and it looks ridiculous. Like I'm okay with finding new ways for like sock technology to be improved to have more circulation. But if you see some of these guys, they got like 6 holes on the back
Yeah,
of their socks.
yeah.
It
Kyle
literally
Walker
looks
does
like it looks terrible. They need to get rid of that.
Well, Jack Grealish just re-Costa back in the day. They just put it all the way down.
Yeah. I hate
You don't
people who
even-
do that. I've tried to do that myself. It
Yeah,
feels
I
so
can't do it
It's
personally.
so uncomfortable. I
Yeah.
don't understand how people do
But
that.
if people can do it, that you won't be on your calf. So
Doesn't matter.
I think they should just get rid of the shin guard rule because it hasn't stopped any significant injuries at all. Nobody ever gets kicked in the shin and is injured because of it. And I mean, nobody even trains with them anymore.
Maybe that's why we don't have shin injuries because there are shin guards.
Have you seen the size of the shin guards of these guys? I don't think it really makes much of a difference.
No, it doesn't. I don't
I
think so.
hate shin guards, but
Unless you get kicked like directly on the shin guard, and even then, it still probably stinks.
But if that's, I mean, I'm just saying, like, you also get kicked in the back of the calf.
And it hurts a lot.
We don't have calf guards.
put a whole armor.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So it's like it's kind of weird because it's like almost if we wore like forearm protectors. You know what I mean? Like it's kind of like a random spot. Like I kind of get it, but it's so old school now that I think that it doesn't make like back then it made more sense because the shin guards covered your whole foot, your whole leg,
And your
plus
ankle.
you had the ankle
Yeah.
protectors. So that makes more sense because you're I think it was like to cover the whole leg to prevent it from injury. But nowadays with how tiny they are and if they're letting these tiny shin guards, if they're letting players get away with these tiny shin guards, you might as well.
Like
So
it's-
how about we bring them back? The ankle shin guard.
Yeah.
There would be a revolution.
I still remember like watching. I think Pirlo played with them. Like if you watch Pirlo play,
Yeah, I do
I was like,
remember
it
those.
looks like he has, and you can't tell, but I'm like, I'm pretty sure he has the ankle guard.
Some people still do.
Because as soon as they take their socks off, you see the shin guard just hanging off.
Well,
And you know the ankle.
Do you remember
exploding.
because they had the ones then they made the ones with the Velcro. Remember, because then you could
Yeah.
Velcro out the top, and then you just had the ankle guard in there, so you
Yep.
didn't have to have the dangling shin
Yeah.
guard. Now you
All
have
right. So that was a terrible one, Joe, because
cardboard.
you did absolutely nothing with that take.
Anyway, that was Georgie's take.
Here's mine. They do this in the NFL. The head coach has the microphone and can communicate with the quarterback, right? I could be wrong. Am I
Yeah.
wrong? This is a
Yeah.
thing.
Not just the quarterback now; they can communicate with
But there's a limit on how many players they can do this with, right?
that. I don't know.
I thought there was.
I don't know if
I mean,
there
I
is.
don't know, but
Yeah, I don't think
I just got the idea from this. They should have the head coach or an assistant coach, maybe, be able to have a headset that communicates directly on an earpiece with the captain. So it doesn't change.
Could you
the structure.
imagine having to play with an earpiece?
Yeah.
I mean, dude, nowadays that stuff is not that big of a deal.
I don't know. I would hate it.
It's just like the technology,
Like an
I'm sure is
AirPod?
good enough. The technology, I'm sure, is good enough where they would just have them custom fitted for the captain's ear, and then just put it in there, and then the guy would be fine. He would be able to.
And then
They could probably put it on.
No problem.
Honestly, they could probably put it on like the bras they wear, and just have a little speaker on there that could pick up.
So the whole world hears it. And then a new study comes out. Nobody wants to be a captain anymore due to having to wear earpieces.
I just think it'd be interesting because you think of times when a coach really needs to make. So I go through this in coaching. When I play against another team and they have some sort of a system, formation, or a style of play that my girls or my players are having a hard time dealing with, I struggle to make any adjustments until halftime. Because it's very hard to talk to your players and move them around during the game, unless it's like tiny little things that happen in certain situations. Like, for example,
You just have one of them fake an injury.
That's what I was about to say.
I have my
But you don't do that very often,
I have my
though.
8-year-olds
And you
do
typically
that,
do
so
that,
we can
like,
bring them
later.
over and talk.
so like I played against a team that at the youth level had inverted fullbacks, which you never
What?
see. Amazing, by the way. I gave the coach so much credit afterwards.
he died, yeah.
He started as regular fullbacks. We pressed in a way that cuts off the outside back or the fullback, forces the ball into the middle. So as we cut off the fullback, their fullback comes inside, which means one of my central midfielders now is like, what do? Do I stay with the central midfielder that I'm marking, or do I go to the fullback? By the time they go to the fullback's already released the ball to the next layer, which means all of my players are now having to mark one more person, which eventually ended up in a through ball in behind, and then they scored 2 goals on me early. And I knew exactly what was happening because I've seen this before at a higher level. But my players were like, what the heck is going on? There's an extra person in the midfield. So the solution for me was, okay, instead of forcing the ball into the middle, force the ball to the fullback so that the fullback can't run inside. Because the moment we start taking that fullback option out, they start running into the middle. So now we cut off the middle and we force it out wide. And now the fullback gets the ball, and now everybody's on one side, and we make play a little bit more predictable. So that was my solution to the problem. However, there was no way for me to communicate
Do it
all of this
immediately.
within the game. So I had to wait till halftime, and we were already down 2-0 at that point. So I'm just thinking, if I had a headset with the captain, I would have been able to tell them all of this during any one of the breaks of the game, or even during the live play, and then they would have been able to sort it out. And now tactical adjustments are made on the fly, instead of just waiting till halftime to make adjustments.
That's good. Part of me thinks so. That would change, to your point on changing the game.
It wouldn't change the structure of the game, rules, the way the game is played. It would just change the ability for teams to make tactical adjustments much faster.
Yeah.
Now-
I guess it would change as a coach how you prepare for games, because I think a lot of being a good coach is training your players in moments to like break down what's happening and critically think and then come up with a solution, where you would be short circuiting that and having it be more of like a basketball or
Yeah.
football type approach, where it's like, hey, now I know what they're doing. Me as the coach, let me give you direction. Because the cool part about soccer is you have to be out there and figure it out. However, it's also the most frustrating part as a coach, because you can't just call a timeout. And if you see something like that happen, did they score? I'm assuming like pretty much back to back, or
Yeah, it was like
pretty close, where it was like by the
first-
time you could even get it out to 1 or 2 people, it was too late.
Yeah, I mean, it was first 10 minutes we were already down 2-0. My players were so confused on what was going on. And by the time we got to halftime, we made those adjustments, but it was already too late.
Yeah.
So I just think it would have helped me out in that situation. It would have made the I know one of the biggest problems that people say nowadays is that you're not supposed to joystick players. You know, you're not supposed to be out there telling them exactly, like you said, you have to let them figure it out. I think that makes more sense at the youth levels versus the higher levels.
Yeah.
At the higher levels, first of all, the players are smart enough to make adjustments on their own. But at the higher levels, players want you to tell them exactly what they need to do. If
a
a
good point.
team knows exactly what they need to do, they feel a lot more confident. Whereas if you just tell them, like, hey, guys, go figure it out, players at that level are going to be like, what are you talking about? Like, no, we need to know what the game plan is, where we need to be, like, how are we going to
And if you're going to have them figure out, that's like a in training camp or in a training session where you don't have a game the next day type thing.
Yeah. So I guess that was also one of my biggest, not problems, but it was an issue that I had with my coaching licenses, that they want you to now give a lot more freedom to the players. So almost everything that you have to do in terms of coaching point is like a guided question. Now it's like you ask a question without giving them the answer, and you're hoping that they come up with their own solutions and things like that, which I understand. But when you get to the competitive levels of the game, the higher levels, you're not asking guided questions. You're telling them you need to be here, and this is how we're going to press, this is how we're going to build out of the back or whatever. And then they make little adjustments on the fly depending on each individual situation. But it's not like, hey, I want you to figure out the solution to this problem, because that's not going to get you results.
Fair.
So I like that. I like that rule change. I'm just
What do you
saying.
think?
No more captains, baby. Everyone's gonna be like, yeah, you're the captain. I mean, unless they can figure something out where it's like, would you be able to play with an earpiece? Like,
No.
you go to the gym, you put AirPods on.
Yeah, I can run with AirPods on. No problem.
I would not like that.
You get used to it.
Yeah, I mean, you get used
It would
to
be weird. It would be weird because it would be interfering like with if someone behind you is calling for the ball. Like, yeah, you'd probably still hear them, but it would sound different. That would be the weird thing to me, because I actually think it would be easier to have two things in than one.
Right?
Because I hate
you're
like having the one,
Oh, yeah,
the one
two,
ear.
definitely.
Like
Well-
even at work, I talk on the phone and I use 2-eared headphones for that reason. When some people they use one, that drives me nuts. Like if one of the earpieces goes out, it
Yeah.
throws off my whole equilibrium.
Well, I think it would be
can't.
very simple to figure out. I mean, they're not noise canceling headphones, because you're not supposed to cancel. So they just have to be. They can't be noise canceling, because you don't want to cancel the noise around you, because you want to be able to hear everything that's going on.
Yeah.
But as long as you can hear what they're telling you in the earpiece, you should be fine. So, I mean, I think about like musicians. Musicians play with these all the time, right? They have to play in these loud arenas. They have to play with these so that they can hear
Earpieces, the music.
And then they're jumping around. They're playing the guitar, and they get used to it. So I think it would be just a matter of getting used to it. I think to what Georgie was alluding to, and I think is that you also, unless you have a good relationship with your manager or whoever it is that's talking to you, that would get really annoying. Because can you imagine some of these managers being in these captains' ears,
stop.
and the captains are just like, just stop talking to me. I just want to play it
Yeah.
at a certain point.
Yelling and screaming.
So I think you'd have to balance that out. But it would be an added benefit if you wanted to use it. You don't have to, but if you wanted to use it.
How about you just get a timeout as a coach? Boom.
No.
Yeah, but then the biggest complaint about that. Timeouts, adding timeouts now. On top of VAR, on top of halftime, on top of the time wasting.
Yeah.
Again, goes back to our conspiracy theory. Commercial breaks,
Yeah,
baby.
commercial
There we
breaks,
go.
man.
They're coming.
I don't think they should ever try and institute timeouts.
No chance. No. That's not my point.
The second, if that ever did happen, it would be
That would be like
the start of something of it changing quickly. I feel like, because then there'd be more. It's easy to add some when.
Yeah, I just
You
feel
have
like
one.
if you're gonna do it, no, it shouldn't be a timeout. No, I think the game is fine. Just get rid of VAR and we're on the right track.
All right. So moving on. Laws of the game. This one's. I'm running out of laws of the game. I'm going to be honest with you.
I'm still
There's
not
only
gonna get
so
it.
many tricky situations that can happen in this sport before you kind of go through all of them, or you eventually will find another situation. But I think the major ones we've already kind of gone through. So
Yeah.
I'm struggling to find new ways to trick you guys.
Didn't we just talk about one?
Which one?
Was it today? I don't know. Days are just like
The days blur together when you never go to sleep. You're always in the studio.
like we just talked about one. Something that happened, and we weren't sure of exactly what the rule was.
No. So this one is one that was instituted a while ago. So that's what I'm going to have you guys guess. Do you know? So the back pass rule. So you can't pass it back to your goalkeeper with your feet, and they can't pick it up, right?
Mhm.
So that wasn't always a rule. Obviously, that used to be okay. You used to be able to pass the ball back to
Yeah.
your goalkeeper, and then they'd pick it up. Do you know when the back pass rule was instituted?
Like what year?
What year?
1988.
Was that close?
Define close.
Is it within 100 of a year? No. 1978.
He's closer.
So it's in the 80s.
Incorrect.
It's not in the 90s. What?
Yeah, I was gonna say 94. No, 96.
Nope.
It can't. It has to be 91. It's either 90, 91, or 92.
1992. The rule was instituted.
I was only 4 years off. You didn't think that was close? Damn, I thought that was pretty cool. I'll take that.
In the-
Because I was thinking,
90.
like, I remember the 1994 World Cup.
They didn't do it in the 1984 World Cup.
That's what I'm saying. Like they didn't do it, so I just assumed that in the past.
So in 1990, the World Cup was one of the teams, I can't remember, it was like the Republic of Ireland, the goalkeeper, wasted like a total of like 6 minutes from them passing him the ball back, picking it up. Can you imagine wasting 6 minutes of game time by just doing that? So it was obviously a rule that needed to be
Like in
implemented at
like
some
what? Like
point.
and he just rolled it to them. They would pass it back.
I guess so, yeah, because you could just do that. So then they instituted back in 1992 the first tournament, I believe, was the Olympics, the upcoming Olympics, in which they used it, in which one or two teams actually committed the foul because they forgot, and so they passed it back to the goalkeeper, and the goalkeeper picked it up. But 1992, so it's been over 30 years now that we've had the back pass rule.
I like it.
It's a good rule.
That's a great rule.
Yeah. So that was the laws of the game. That one wasn't not as interesting as the ones we've had previously. But can you imagine if we still had that? The amount of time wasting that would be going on.
I would hate that.
That would be so annoying.
All right, and then let's finish up with some fun facts, or with one fun fact. And I'll ask it as a question as well, and see if you guys can get it. What is the worst team according to FIFA?
Like in the world?
Yep. What is the worst national team according to the FIFA rankings?
Oh, the FIFA rankings. Because it goes up to like
Like 300. Probably more, I don't know. 400,
yeah.
200, I don't know.
I should have pulled it up already. Because
I have no idea. Some random collection of islands would be my guess.
Some islands. Is it the next goal wins?
No, I thought it was. So that movie,
What?
The Next Goal Wins, that
Oh,
one's on
like the
American Samoa,
The American Samoa.
but it's not American Samoa.
The Faroe Islands? I don't know.
No, whoa.
First of all,
Faroe
what
Islands are
number?
decent.
What number are they ranked? And who is it?
Like 300 something.
256.
I've never looked that low in the rankings.
So San Marino
There's no way they're the worst.
is ranked 211th.
San Marino?
San Marino, 211th. And they've only ever won one game in their history,
Okay, wait.
Wow.
which was back in 2004 against
Liechtenstein.
Liechtenstein, 1-0.
Okay, that cannot be right.
It's right according to Google.com, baby.
San Marino's better than a lot of those islands that play.
They might not
San
be accredited
Marino-
by FIFA or
Yeah,
something.
that's the only way.
Yeah.
Like,
Because you have to play in certain FIFA.
but I feel like you go all in the qualifiers, right? Like you're able to qualify for a World Cup.
They've only ever won once, defeating Liechtenstein 1-0 in a friendly match on the 28th of April, 2004.
What's like? Okay, so yeah, I mean that's the only way. Those islands are not part of.
Yeah,
They have
must not be.
conceded an average of 4.2 goals per match. All right. And the first official match played by San Marino was a 4-0 defeat in European Championship qualifier to Switzerland in 1990.
Yeah. So they play in all the Euro qualifiers.
Yeah, but like think about it.
Yeah.
They're technically they're not the worst team in the world.
They are, because they are ranked 211th right now in the FIFA rankings.
Well,
And they've only ever won one game.
that's under FIFA.
Yeah.
correct. But
He's saying that there's other countries that are worse that
Yeah.
are just not under FIFA.
Yeah.
well, right, but officially
But if you don't play in any
registered,
tournaments, it's hard
officially
to- yeah.
registered teams.
So is the next goal wins American
Samoa.
Samoa? Whatever. Are they on the FIFA? They have to be on the FIFA.
Yeah, I used to see them in the FIFA, but I don't know where they're at right now. That story was about the old American Samoa, so I don't know if it's probably changed a little bit since then. I haven't watched that.
You know what? I hate the FIFA rankings
Why? Because they suck?
because they make zero sense. So like San Marino gets screwed every single time because they play in Europe and they play like I don't know Italy, Switzerland teams that are like
Pretty
do
good.
really well in the Euros and the World Cups. But then you might have a team, I don't know, in a random island or something that plays against other random islands and they win games. So technically,
Like in Oceania
Yeah.
or whatever?
yeah. So technically, you can climb up the ladder even though you're not. Like if
You're not
San
playing the
Marino was
same
to
people.
play the 50 teams in front of them, I guarantee there would probably be like 30 of them.
Yeah.
So like FIFA rankings.
It's not the way the world works, George.
FIFA rankings.
But they're
George
actually not
doesn't. George
they're
wants
actually not
everything to be fair.
terrible. They're actually not terrible. Like they're not losing like 12-0, 15-0.
No, I don't. Yeah,
They lost like on November 20th their Euro qualifier. They only lost 2-1 to Finland.
yeah. And Finland's decent.
Finland's decent.
But
So, yeah, they
I
kinda
do
just
always
stuck-
bet against San Marino and always against Gibraltar on national teams. So.
Georgie's betting on like 4th division Brazilian league teams. I swear it's getting bad, Joe.
No,
It's one of hey.
Hey, third division Jamaica today.
He
What
bet
happened?
on the 3rd division.
I
Stop
didn't.
it.
I couldn't, but I would have won.
He was
I
going
couldn't.
to, and then
I
he
was-
got locked.
I was going to. I looked it up. I went to SofaScore. It was 3rd against 14th or something like that. And I was like, Javi, it's 70th minute, 20 minutes to go. The odds are really good. 3x. So as I'm clicking to put money on it, they score. They win. I didn't win the money.
They
So I
probably
guess
knew like this must be match fixing. No one actually bets on this game. We have it posted on the
then this one
app
guy
just
gets
cause,
out.
and then like wait, someone's actually looking at this game to bet on it.
I'll tell you
Cancel
what.
the bets. Cancel the bets.
There's some people who really like George is getting to that point. I'm not gonna lie, George is getting to that point. But I had friends in college, teammates in college, who were betting on literally 4th division Brazilian league, and they were like, so we had a couple Brazilians in college, and one of my friends who was Belgian, who was on the team, who was doing all these bets, would go up to the Brazilians and be like, hey, what do you think about this team? And they're like, I don't know, it's 4th division. Like,
That's crazy.
so
People are crazy, man. You know,
Is that
All
where
right,
the money
well-
is?
that's where the money's at, man.
well, that's
a
it for
good
this one. Make sure you do follow us again on the social media once more. As Joe makes these random gang signs that he's throwing up right now, youtube.com/@the NGW podcast, as well as @the NGW podcast on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. And Facebook, you're just going to have to search up the Next Goal Wins podcast. We don't have a URL for that one.
I don't even follow the Facebook one.
Unbelievable.
This guy.
Unbelievable.
You probably don't either. Do you actually update the Facebook one?
I haven't in a while, but I did post a decent amount of videos on there.
Facebook is odd. It's
Facebook, yeah.
Facebook is odd.
Facebook. It's
But
like-
we're trying to be everywhere. We're just
Yeah,
trying to be
we're
everywhere.
everywhere.
We're trying to grow this as much as
and
and what?
we're gonna try and go TikTok live.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, and we're gonna do some more TikTok lives.
Yep.
So hopefully soon.
TikTok live Arsenal,
Arsenal,
Liverpool
maybe
on the
that
23rd.
was the plan. We
TikTok
need to start
live. See you
doing it
there.
weekly.
weekly. We will.
Let's do
All
it.
right. Catch you guys in the next one. Peace out.
Messi